Hey guys, back with another video now. I'm going to talk about my fast mono green deck. If you guys haven't seen the video, it's up on this channel. I would recommend you watch that video first. That's going to give you a deal and a feel for how this deck performs. But this is a second iteration I'm trying out now with Primal Surge as the main win con in the deck. Just to show you, Primal Surge is 10 drop sorcery, exile the top card of your library. If it's a permanent, put it on the battlefield. And then repeat that process. The whole point of this deck is there's no instances and no sorceries in the entire deck. If you Primal Surge, you're going to put everything onto the battlefield and you're going to win immediately. In case you're wondering, the reason I have 69 cards in the main deck is I accidentally forgot that I had 3 cards in the deck that were mandatory draws, so I just need to replace them with simple things. It's not a big deal. But the main thing with this deck is when you Primal Surge, you don't want cards that mandatory draw. If you have a card that mandatory draws, you're going to Primal Surge, you're going to put every permanent you own onto the battlefield, and then you're going to cause yourself to draw, and you're going to have no library, and you're going to lose. The thing is that if you have any mandatory draws, they will hit, even if you have a piece like a creature that removes that mandatory draw. It's not going to matter. Because if you have Garruk's Uprising, for instance, Garruk Uprising, you would have to stop your Primal Surge if you don't want to do that, and that's going to cause you to not win the game, or else you're going to put that draw in the stack, Primal Surge all the way through, and eventually draw that and die. So, it's still Gilanra, my mana dork that draws me a card if it's 6 or greater, and then Kodama, whenever another permanent enters the battlefield, you can put one equal or lesser onto the battlefield for free from your hand. And we'll start hitting on the other cards real quick from the deck. Excuse me, sorry about that. Chroma's Memorial. This is one of the most important pieces to the entire deck. Creatures you control have flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, and pro black, pro red. Haste is the big part here because when you Primal Surge, you're going to put everything onto the battlefield. When you put everything on the battlefield, all the stack's going to resolve down, all your triggers are going to happen, you're going to blow up a bunch of stuff, you're going to look real mean, and then you're going to have haste, and you'll be able to swing in and win the game anyway. All the other stuff is very relevant on this card, but haste is the big piece. You need to have a piece with haste hit, go to combat, and swing out at somebody. Emerald Medallions, 2 colorless, makes all your green spells cost 1 less, and then Soul Ring, 2 colorless for 1. Our enchantments, pretty straightforward. Carpet of Flowers is going to give you X amount of mana, where X number of islands target opponent controls. You're usually playing against somebody with blue. Even if you're only getting 1 or 2 out of this, it's still worth it. Coordinate Crossroads, all creatures have haste. So this is not a good card to play early because it's going to give all of your opponent's creatures haste, but it's definitely something you want to have at least out when you go to close out the game. Very important piece. Working Praetors, we run like 53 creatures in this deck, so this is an absolute unit of a card. It's 4 colorless, 2 green. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it on the battlefield. Otherwise, you may put that card at the bottom of your library. If you play Working Praetors, you're going to put every creature out, like 99% of the time. There's no reason not to. We have plenty of buffs, plenty of big things going on. You're just going to get free creatures out. And if Kodama's already out, every time Working Praetors triggers, you can put a creature from your hand on the battlefield. It gets very out of hand, very fast. Defense of the Heart, 3 colorless, 1 green. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls 3 or more creatures, sack Perfect Defense, which is this the name of this version. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, put them onto the battlefield. If you have this out and a few creatures and you're running just like a normal game, this is either going to be the biggest turnaround for your deck where you're going to do something absolutely insane, or it's a great way to close out the game because you can go get something like a Crater Hoof and another big buff and just slam them both down at the same time. You will guaranteeingly win. Like, unless someone has a fog, you're going to win on that turn. And if not, it's just a good value piece to have out early. It allows you to go get like 2 big mana dorks or something like that and really help you out. Sylvan Library, colorless and a green. Whenever you draw a card, draw 2 additional. Pay 4 life to keep any extra ones if you would like. Unnatural Growth is my favorite green card of all time. I've really been enjoying this card in every green deck that I have. It's 1 green, 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 green. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until the end of turn. So playing something like a Crater Hoof, already having this out, going to combat, and then doubling it again is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. And then Utopia Sprawl and Wild Growth both give you an extra mana, basically. The lands, pretty straightforward. We played Beseiju. It's just an interaction piece, and it's a land if we want it to be that. Castle Garenbridge enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a forest. It taps for green, or you can pay 4 into it and tap it to get 6 mana you can only spend on creature spells or activated abilities of creatures. Again, we're like 53 creatures in this deck. You're fine with putting the 5 lands aside so that you can get 6 mana. It just gives you an extra mana, basically. Myriad Landscape's gonna pay 2, sack it, go get 2 basics. Nykthos is going to pay 2, tap it, choose a color, which is always going to be green, unless you just want to make a really bad choice, I guess. You're going to get green equal to your devotion, which when you start throwing out things like Kodama, Lurking Predators, Unnatural Growth, other stuff, this gives you a ton of mana. I skipped over Mosswood Bridge. It has Hideaway, so when it enters, you're going to look at the top 4, put 1 underneath it, and then later on, if you control power 10 or greater, you could pay 1 in a green, tap it, and play that card. Very, very, very good in this deck, especially. I have won 2 games specifically by putting a Crater Hoof underneath Mosswood Bridge. Being able to just slap down a Crater Hoof for 1 is insane. And then you get to put something from your hand onto the battlefield for free as well. Yeah, it's pretty darn good. And then Reliquary Tower gives you no maximum hand size. So now we have all this out of the way. Sorry about that. We're going to talk about the creatures. The creatures are all monodorks, versatile, utility pieces. They all do something. They all hold their own weight, and that's the whole point of this deck, is they want to either be monodork so you can do stuff and ramp out, they want to remove pieces and kind of help control down, or they want to be a utility piece that does something important for the game. So Acidic Slime, 3 colorless, 2 green. It's an ooze, 2/2 with Death Touch. When it ETBs, blow up target artifact, enchantment, or land. It's a good removal piece. Aggressive Mammoth, 3 and 3 green. It's an Elephant Trample that gives all your creatures trample. It's an 8/8. Allosaur Shepherd, 1 green. It can't be countered. Green spells you control can't be countered. And then its bomb ability doesn't really matter, but you could pay 6 and make all of your elves 5/5s. We do have a decent amount of elves, so I guess eventually maybe it could ever matter, but I've been in a game where it matters. My friend bought me this card actually for like $80. Shout out Josh. I just feel really bad that the card is currently down to 23, but it's good for the market and good for the player base. But yeah, green spells not being able to be countered is pretty obnoxious. Apex Devastator, just an insane creature. I can't believe that this is printed, and I can't believe it went up. Oh my god. Wow. I didn't realize that jumped up in price. It's 8 colorless, 2 green. It's a 10/10 that cascades 4 times. Apex Devastator wins games. I mean, just being able to cascade 4 times in a decent deck does a ton. I've definitely won games just by getting like Earthshaker, Crater Hoof, or something big off of it, or just doing something simple like throwing out 4 really good cards and just saying, do something about this or I'm going to win. Very good card. And it's a 10/10 on top of it, which is pretty gross. Birds of Paradise, my favorite art for it because of how hideous it looks. 1 green, 0/1 flyer, taps, add 1 mana of any color. Bramble Sovereign, a card that people told me was very bad, so I purposely put it in this deck, and I've also won games just because of this card. 2 colorless, 2 green, Dryad, 4/4. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, that creature's controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature. So if you play Crater Hoof, have a second Crater Hoof. Very obnoxious. And even just in general, just being able to get some other big creatures that you'll see in this deck list out and create another one of them, yeah, you oftentimes have the mana too, so it's not an issue with that. Circle of Dreams Druid, 3 green. It's Gaia's Cradle on a creature. Crater Hoof, 5 colorless, 3 green. You know him, you hate him. He's a beast, 5/5 with haste that gives +X, where X is number of creatures you control. If you have 10 creatures, everything gets +10/+10. As you see with this deck, there's many ways to abuse that, double it, and do other shenanigans with it. Dawnglade Revenant, Reginant. It's 5, 2 green, elk, 8/8. When it enters, you become the monarch, and as long as you're the monarch, permanents you control have hexproof. Very good creature, really helps out a ton, especially when you start your entire chain of everything entering and all this stuff. It's pretty good. Deleted Halfling, 1 green, Halfling Citizen, 1/2, tapped add a green, or tapped add 1 mana of any color, spend it on a legendary spell that can't be countered. Dosan the Fallen Leaf. Very, very, very important piece for this deck because it is a 1/2 green human monk 2/2 that says players can't play players can play spells only during their own turn. If this is out before you Primal Surge, or if you Primal Surge into this, it makes it so people can't do anything about things. So this is a really good card. Druid of Purification, 3 green, 3 colorless, 1 green, human druid, 2/3, ETBs starting with you. Everybody chooses an artifact or enchantment I don't control, destroy them all. Very nice removal piece. Earthshaker Giant, 4 green, or 4 colorless, 2 green. I don't know why I keep mixing them up. Giant Druid, it's a 6/6 or trample that when it ETBs gives all other creatures you control +3/+3 and trample until the end of turn. Elvish Mystic is 1 green, it's an elf druid, you can tap to add 1 green. If any of these are from the other video and you guys have already seen them, I apologize. Some of these creatures are different, and I'm just kind of hitting on them in general. Enray's Forerunners, 5 colorless, 3 green, Sabor, Vigilance, Trample, Haste. ETBs gives all your creatures +2/+2, Vigilance, and Trample. Galta, this is the Secret Lair Cereal Box Edition. Galta, he's a 12/12 with Trample. That's all you need to know. But this is the coolest art for him, hands down. It's really, really awesome. I love it. Giant Onkage. Another card that I pulled when I was going through one of the sets, and someone told me it was a really bad card, so I said, you know, some bad cards have a place. 6 colorless, 2 green. It's an insect, 8/8 with trample and ward 2, and gives all your other creatures trample and ward 2, which is very nice. Ward 2, if it's on the screen, never mind, I'm sorry. God Eternal Ronus, 3 colorless, 2 green. It's a zombie god 5/5 with death touch. When it ETBs, you double the power of each other creature you control, and those creatures gain vigilance until the end of turn. So another big buff creature. Goreclaw, 3 colorless, 1 green. It's a boar. Creature spells that have power 4 or greater cost 2 less, which we have a ton of in this deck. And when he attacks, each other creature will power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 trample. Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia. 2 colorless, 1 green. It's an elf druid scout that you can tap to add 2 mana of any combination to cast creature spells or activate abilities of them. And whenever you cast a creature spell power 5 or greater, put a +1 counter on Gaia or Gwenna and untap it. So really, really good mana dork for this deck. Just absolutely insane mana dork for this kind of deck. Impervious Great Worm, 7 colorless, 3 green. Convocable worm with indestructible that's a 16/16. Yeah, it's that good. Kamal, Heart of Kroza, 6 colorless, 2 green, human druid. At the beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control get +3/+3 and trample, and you can pay 1 and a green to turn a land into a vigilance indestructible haste creature. Kongla, the Titan Ape, 3 colorless, 3 green. It's a legendary creature ape. ETBs, fights a creature. Whenever it attacks, you could destroy an artifact or enchantment defending player controls, and then you could return a land. You can return a human to your hand to give him indestructible. He's just a good removal piece, and he fits that 6 CMC. Lana War Elves, 1 green for creature taps for 1 green. Lana War Tribe, 3 green for a creature taps for 3 green. Moldergraph Monstrosity, 4 colorless, 3 green. It's an insect that when it dies, exile it, return 2 creatures at random from your graveyard to your battlefield. At worst, you're getting mana dorks. At best, you're getting back a big buffy creature that's going to cause a lot of issues. And you're fine with an 8/8 trample as is anyway, so really good card. Nyxbloom Ancient, 4 colorless, 3 green, elemental, trample 5/5. Whenever you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much as that. I don't really have any big X spells in here, so there's nothing like obscene that this card's going to do, but it is going to basically allow you to pump out as many things as you want from your hand. Orin Frostfang, 3 colorless, 2 green. It's a snow creature snake, 2/6. Attacking creatures have death touch, and whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So when you start swinging in for 7 or 8 creatures all with trample, and then you get to draw potentially 7 or 8 cards, it creates a lot of problems. Speaking of a lot of problems, Old Gnawbone, 5 colorless, 2 green, dragon, 7/7 flyer. Whenever a creature deals damage to a player, create that many treasures. I believe the most I was able to create in one turn was 580 or something around that in one turn with Old Gnawbone. Of course, the game was already over, it didn't really matter, but yeah, even just in general, being able to hit someone for 20 and create 20 treasures is obnoxious. Old One Eye, 5 colorless, 1 green, Tyrannid. It is a 6/6 trample. Other creatures you control have trample. When it ETBs, you just get a 5/5. Like, it's good value. And in the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may discard 2 cards. If you do, return it from the graveyard to your hand. That part's kind of nice, I suppose, but mostly it's in there because you get a 6/6 and you get a 5/5, which is pretty good. Pretty good value. Pathbreaker Ibeck. 4 colorless, 2 green goat, 3/3. When it attacks, creatures you control gain trample and get +X, where X is the greatest power amongst creatures you control. As you can see, we have a lot of big creatures in this deck. Even just if we have 8, that's still +8/+8 to all creatures we control. It's very, very good. And I was able to buy this from a local card shop while going down to South Carolina for a vacation, and they gave me a very good price for it, unless this card just went up. Because I only had to pay about $4 or $5 for this card. So shout out random card shop, I don't remember his name, on the way down to South Carolina. Primordial Sage, 4 colorless, 2 green, spirit. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may draw a card, and it's a 4/5. So this is another one of those may abilities, which I need to find a couple more to replace those ones that I had to take out. Rex Sage, 2 colorless, 1 green, elf shaman. When it ETBs, blow up an artifact or enchantment. It's a 2/1. Regal Behemoth, 4 colorless, 2 green, dinosaur trample, 5/5. When it ETBs, you're the monarch, and when you're the monarch, lands tap for an additional 1 of any color. Regal Force, 4 colorless, 3 green, elemental, 5/5. ETBs, draw a card for each green creature you control. Just an obnoxious card. The only thing is, this is one of those cards that isn't so great with the Primal Surge because, again, this is a mandatory draw. You kind of have to balance that in some way. So this is one that you could probably remove, but man, is it just so good if you don't get the Primal Surge. I mean, it's only 1 card in your entire deck, whereas Regal Force is always going to be a unit for you. So it's hard to argue with removing that. Renati, 2 colorless, 1 green, cat shaman. Whenever you cast a creature spell, mana value 5 or greater, you put 1/1 counters on it, where it's mana value -4. And then whenever you control a creature with, oh my god, creatures you control with 3 or more 1/1 counters on them have haste. So those big creatures that you're already playing can come in bigger and with haste. And it's also a mono dork, so pretty versatile. Steve, sack it to get a basic land. Selvala, Heart of Wilds, 1 colorless, 2 green, elf, scout, 2/3. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, if its controller may draw a card if the power is greater than every other creature's power, and you could pay a green, tap it, and get X mana in any combination of colors where X is greatest power amongst creatures you control. So a good way to get a ton of mana. Silverback Elder, 2 colorless, 3 green, Ape Shaman. Whenever you cast a creature spell, choose one. Either blow up an artifact or enchantment. Look at the top 5, put a land from among them onto the battlefield, tap, and the rest of the bottom library in random order. Or the one you're most likely going to do, which is gain 4 life. Just start gaining a bunch of life. Soul the Harvest, 4 colorless, 2 green, elemental, 6/6 with trample. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Sirach and Goreclaw, 4 colorless, 2 green, human, bear, 6/5. It has trample. Other creatures you control have trample, and whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1 counter on it and give it haste until the end of turn. Terrestodon, 6 colorless, 2 green, elephant, 9/9. ETBs, blow up 3 non-creature permanents. They get elephants instead. Terrasta, Tempest Rage, 10 colorless, 2 green, so really high cost, but it's a 7/7 dinosaur with trample and haste that tramples over planeswalkers. It costs 3 less for each other spell you've cast, and it has hexproof the turn that you played it. So pretty good. Thunderfoot Baloff, 4 colorless, 2 green. It's a beast, 5/5 with trample, and lieutenant. So as long as you control your commander, he gets +2/+2, and all your other creatures get +2/+2 and trample. Titan of Industry, 4 colorless, 3 green, elemental, 7/7, reach, trample. When it enters the battlefield, choose 2. You can blow up an artifact and enchantment, gain 5 life, create a 4/4, or put a shield counter on creature that you control. I usually either blow up an artifact and create a 4/4, or gain 5 life and create a 4/4. Having that extra creature is very nice. It's very helpful, and usually blowing up something matters. If it really doesn't matter, then I just gain the 5 life, because gaining 5 life is relevant in a game of Magic when it's not, all on the line or CEDH type stuff, I guess. Tree Shaker, Chimera, 5 colorless, 2 green. Chimera, all creatures able to block Tree Shaker do so, and when it dies, draw 3. It's just a very, very good card in general, but it's also nice to be able to draw the cards, force everybody to block something, can help out with the end game when you're trying to swing out and kill somebody and you're too worried about worrying about the blockers and figuring out damage. It's nice to just say, I'm swinging with this and enough to kill you, kind of thing. Ovenwall Hydra, 4 colorless, 2 green Hydra, star reach. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, and when it ETBs, search for a land card, put it on the battlefield, tapped, shuffle. Verdant Sun's Avatar, a disgusting card in this deck, 5 colorless, 2 green. When it or another creature enters, gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So very, very, very gross. Vigor, 3 colorless, 3 green, elemental, incantation, trample, 6/6. If damage would be dealt to another creature you control, prevent that damage and put that many 1/1 counters onto that creature. And if this were to die, shuffle it into owner's library. Woodfall Premise, 5 colorless, 3 green, Treefolk, Shaman, trample, 6/6. ETBs, blow up a non-creature permanent, and it has persist. So when it dies, it comes back with a -1 counter on it, re-blows up something. Woodland Bellower, 4 colorless, 2 green. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a non-legendary green creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less and put it on the battlefield and then shuffle. Yeva is 2 colorless, 2 green, elf shaman with flash, makes it so all your green creatures have flash. And then Zoltalpa, Hunger Dominus, is 5 colorless, 2 green, Phyrexian Horror, 4/8 with reach, and at the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control. So other than Regal Behemoth, you see a couple different draw pieces in here that are all May abilities, which is very important, and those 3 cards that I took out need to be replaced with more May abilities, so I will find something that's more value pieces to be able to make sure that I have things in my hand. But you can kind of see the point of this deck. Get out a nice Lurking Praetors or Defense of the Heart type thing if you can early, and go that way. Get out Sylvan Library, different pieces to help you with the value, and then your goal basically is to just do what I already did in the mono green deck. Just instead of worrying about defending yourself, playing instant and sorceries, responding to people, your goal is just gas, just straight gas. Your goal is always cast a spell with 6 or greater with Gilanra to draw a card, and when you play that thing, put something into play for free. Do that until you can overwhelm people. Believe it or not, this deck is the most feared deck that I play at my LGS, besides, I don't know if I did the video on it yet, I think I may have, but my Mono White Griffins deck is the other one. Something about this deck, it might not look like it's that amazing, but it only takes a mana dork or 2 and 1 piece of value, and instantly you start to just get out of hand. It's gotten to the point where people have board wiped, and then I just replay everything and do it all again next turn. It doesn't matter that much once you're kind of set up and going. It only takes you a turn or 2 to get back to where you were. But it's a very explosive deck. Again, I get to play some of my favorite creatures that are big and explosive and create a lot of issues for people. So if you're into a mono green stompy deck, my other version of it had instants and sorceries and was a little bit more safe. This version's more of a balls to the wall go kind of strategy. So let me know what you guys think of it, and I'll see you guys on the next deck tech. Peace.